Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Audrey. Welcome to my channel, Audrey Reads. We are here to just talk about books. I put out a new video every single Thursday that is book related. So if that's something that interests you, go ahead and subscribe. And like I said, you'll get a new video every single Thursday. Today, I am going through all of the books that I have read that have been recommended to me specifically from TikTok. These are TikTok popular books. And I think I've got roughly 20. I wanted to do a ranking, a tier ranking, because some of these I was like, are you kidding me, you guys? And then others I was like, oh my God, I love you. So real quick, let's go through some of the tiers. First one obviously is I Worship the Ground You Walk On. This is above 5 stars. This is no notes books. I loved it so much. I'll probably reread it at some point in my life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. The second one is obviously I loved it. These are like closer to 4 or 5 stars that it entertained me the whole way through. And I'll probably recommend it to other people. Third one is I Respect Your Decisions in the sense that it was a good book for someone, not necessarily me. So I respect your decision. Next is Borderline Awful. It's not like the bottom. This is one that I didn't necessarily like, but I'm not going to talk shit about it. And then fifth and final is Gore. What? These are the ones that I was like, who likes this? I'm so sorry. I'm really confused. Help me out. What the hell? Okay, so let's get started. First and foremost, we've got A Court of Thorns and Roses. I put the whole series, obviously. So I've got all three. I've got ACOTAR, Throne of Glass, and Crescent City. I'm just gonna rate these by the series themselves, because this is gonna be a 1,000,000-hour video if I do that. So, as far as A Court of Thorns and Roses, this series got me into the fantasy world. I had never read fantasy, quote unquote fantasy, if you want to call it that, prior to this series. And so I have to put it on the top because it got me into my love of reading again. And I can't knock that. And then of course it's an amazing series and I've already started my reread after finishing Crescent City. So anyways, next we're going to do Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass, without any spoilers, let's just say Selena is, out of all of the characters I've read in the last, I'd say 3 years, Selena is my favorite. Selena, however you want to say it, is my favorite character of all time. I love her. And so for that reason, obviously, it's going on the top. Crescent City. If I were to split this up, I would put the first book in maybe here, like the I Respect Your Decisions. I'm not going to lie. It was slow. It was really, really slow. But then once it got going and once you got through the world building, I would argue that it's better than A Court of Thorns and Roses and Throne of Glass. I am so excited to see where she takes this series. The second and third book I would put probably up here. So let's just put it in I Loved It to kind of put it in the middle of that. Next one is Still Beating. This book pissed me off. I am so mad at whoever's video it was that got me to read this book. I am so mad at you because the story itself is worth telling and it needs to be told. But the way she made it more of a romance novel instead of just a straight novel, I was so mad at the things she was focusing on. There were several scenes that were inappropriate in the sense that she focused in this direction like spicy scenes in depth rather than the psychology of what's going on. I was so aggravated and annoyed. She sexualized a very, very, very traumatic scenario, and I hate that. I'm sorry. And it could just be because I have my own like Me Too thing, but this pissed me off. So I'm putting that at the very bottom. If there was a lower level, I would put it there. 1 star. I could not but like I said, the story itself is important and should be told, but not in the way she told it. Next one is Archer's Voice. I am not really a romance person, and this is one of the first true romances I read in the last year. So I'm putting it here because I do respect your decisions, but it's not necessarily the genre that I personally would go for. And then just like the way she explained some of the spicy scenes was kind of comical. Just like the words and nouns and verbs she was using. I was like, what? And it just kept going and going and going and going. So yeah, that one's going here, and I respect your decisions. The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters. I would argue that this was my favorite standalone book of 2023. This is a no spoiler video, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I will say that it's just a really feel good, but also make you cry novel. This also touches on some Native American history, which I appreciated. So I'm putting this one up here on the very top. I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. The Coworker by Frida McFadden. I put this one in here because I got the recommendation from TikTok and I read it before The Housemaid. And it was all right, but it got me back into the thriller universe. It was good enough to get me back into it. And then I ended up reading all of Frida's books in 2023. So I got to give it some credit. So I'm going to put it up here on I loved it. Although if you've read it, there were so many turtles. If you know, you know. Oh, so it makes me want to put it back down here because it's not my favorite of Frida's. In fact, it's probably closer to the bottom of her books that I have read. So I'll put it there. Saving Noah. Oh my gosh. Have you read this book? Because if you have, I want your input. I truly cannot decide if I like it or hate it. It's the POV of someone that is societally looked down on across the board. I'll just say that because, again, I'm not trying to spoil anything. So the whole time I was reading it, I was like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. This is awful. Everything you're doing is awful. What the hell? But I've never read that perspective before. So if you loved it, great. I think I respect that. But I myself, I don't think it's for me. I don't know if I'll recommend it to anyone. But yeah, if you've read that book, I want to know what your thoughts are on it, because it just left me questioning some things about myself. If you know, you know. The Silent Patient. This is a perfect thriller. I love it. There is some discourse on it on the internet, but for me personally, I freaking loved it. I ate it up in one day. It was so good. And then I actually ended up reading his other book that he has, and he intertwined them. So if you liked this book, I forget the other one's called. Oh, The Maidens. I think that The Silent Patient is better, but The Maidens was really good as well. I'm going to put this up here. If you had asked me a year ago, I probably would have put it on the I Worship the Ground You Walk On, but I've read so many better books that now I kind of know what the difference is between these two. And that's it. Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings. So after I finished ACOTAR, I was like, I want to get into fantasy, but I want to go hard. I want a real fantasy. And this one was the #1 recommended fantasy book on TikTok. So I tried it. It is 1,000 pages. So keep that in mind if you try it. But it didn't ramble. It didn't keep going on and on and on and on and on to the point where you couldn't. There was not a lot of babbling. Everything was necessary, in my opinion. I think it was extremely well written, and I am currently reading a ton of books by Brandon Sanderson now because I freaking love him now. So I'm going to put this up here on the very tippy top. There by Tommy Orange. This one was heartbreaking. It's the POV of several Native Americans in different parts of their lives, which was incredible to look into. I freaking loved it. And then it all kind of comes together at the end. I think the ending could have been a lot more dramatic. So I'm going to put it on the I loved it. Outside of the ending, I'd put it up here on the very top, but Never Lie, Frida McFadden. So I gave Frida one more try with Never Lie, and it was amazing. I love this book. If you want a recommendation for a good thriller and you have not read this one yet, I highly recommend it. So I read it like 6 months ago. I'm going to put it up here because even though I loved it and like the vibes are good and I think back and I'm like, ooh, that was so good, I couldn't tell you what it was about. I read a lot of books. I've probably read, 40 or 50 books since I read that one. And I cannot even try to tell you what it's about. So that's why I'm not putting on the tippy top. The vibe is here, but I don't remember anything. So I can't put it at the top. One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I loved this book. The premise of it is super unique. The way that the magic is done is unlike anything I've ever read. So I'm going to put this at the very top because the uniqueness of the plot is just, I have no notes. It's perfect. She did such a good job with that book. Fourth Wing. Okay. I listened to the audiobook. I need to reread it and just read the book. That's on my TBR for this year. I don't know if I can rate it correctly because of that. A little bit of criticism, but the audiobook narrator was sick in more than half of the audiobook. I'm not trying to talk shit, but it was very distracting and I couldn't necessarily get the full punch of it. So for now, I'm just going to put it up here because it didn't leave me the same way as ACOTAR or Throne of Glass because these are compared all the time with each other. I just didn't get the feeling that a lot of people did. So I am going to reread it and I'm going to read it the physical copy. The Alchemist. This one was super good. It's a book that I think would be in like an English class. I had to like really sit down and focus. So I'm going to put it here because it wasn't like, I think a lot of people would love it, but it's not necessarily my cup of tea. If you like classics, I think you would like this one. The Song of Achilles. Oh my gosh. This one's going to the top. I freaking loved it. I thought I knew what love was until I read this book. And nothing against my husband. But this is like book love. This is like, you say you love me, but then in a Song of Achilles, it's like, it just, it has so many good lines of love. A+, highly recommend. I loved it. Ninth House and Hellbent. I put these together because it is a series. Ninth House. Actually, I saw Hellbent because the cover was awesome. It's got like a dead rabbit on the front. And I thought that that was really cool. So I looked into it, and Ninth House was the first one. And so I started there. You guys, please read this book. If you've read One Dark Window and you really liked it, read Ninth House and Hellbent. It's I don't want to give any spoilers, but I loved this book. I'm going to reread it this year just because I need the vibes. It was so freaking good. It's set at Yale, but there's magic involved. So it's lots of fun. Highly recommend it. It ends with us and it starts with us. Oh, man, you guys. I have to give it some credit because it was the first book I read after COVID. I got into this huge slump after COVID and didn't read for like a full year at all. I think I read like 2 books that year. And so when It Ends With Us came out, I picked it up. And I understand why there's a lot of discourse online for both of them. It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us. But it did get me back into reading, totally. So I'm gonna put it up. I'm putting It Ends With Us on I Respect Your Decisions. The second book didn't do it for me. There were some concerning parts about the plot itself. So I'm putting this one here. Okay? Don't come for me. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. This one was so cute. This is kind of sci-fi-y, but it's small. It's a small book. Super fun. I've never read sci-fi in my life, truly. My parents were obsessed with Star Trek, and I never got into it because of that. I was so like, sci-fi, never. So I saw this one on TikTok of like a cozy read. And you guys, it is a perfect cozy read. If you need something to just like get your mind out of life for a little bit, it's a shorter read. And so I highly recommend it because it's just a cute, fun, sci-fi, low stakes kind of book. So you don't have to get super involved in it. There is a series if you want to keep going. I didn't really like the second book at all. It was a weird second book to a series, but yeah, if that's something that you vibe with, I highly recommend it. Oh my gosh, I'm glad my mom died. Oh, Jeanette. This one opened a Pandora box of trauma for me. I was like, oh yeah, that is bad. Oh yeah, your mom shouldn't do that. And like the storyline, she's like getting through therapy and everything, and she was protective of her mother and then had like these realizations throughout the book. And it just kind of felt like we were on that journey together. I don't have that kind of relationship with my mom. Like I do have a good relationship, I think, with my mom. But it definitely highlighted some of the red flags of boundaries that I personally need to take with my own relationship with my mom and my family in general. So I loved it. I'm going to put it up here. When I Was You by Amber Garza. I didn't know who she was until TikTok came along. In fact, I think I saw it on her page. But the reason I put this in here is because the premise is so smart. She did such a good job putting this thriller together, where I personally didn't expect the ending. I feel like I'm pretty good at guessing endings to thrillers, but this one, she got me. She really did. So I'm putting this one up at I loved it. There were a couple like cringy moments in some of the exchanges, which is why I'm not putting it on the top. And then The Housemaid. I didn't read this one until the end because the weight on it was like, I literally, this is the last Frida McFadden book I read. I'm going to read the second one because the ending had me. I would say the first half of the book is like, she's building the plot, kind of setting the premise of what's going on. And then the second half, I'm not even joking, is just twist after twist after twist after twist. There's a reason this book is all over the internet right now, because it was so good. Do I put that above the silent? Like, this is making me question if I should put the silent patient up here. I'm leaving it. That's just how I'm going to keep it. We're going off vibes here today. Okay, and then I put Kristen Hanna's The Women because it's a new release for February and it has blown up the internet. It's the only book I'm seeing on all of my socials right now. So I finally got to read it. I finished it 2 days ago. Kristen Hanna did it again. If you're a Kristen Hanna fan, Kristen Hanna is my favorite author. So I've tried to read most of her books, but if you are a Kristen Hanna fan, she did it again. I can confirm. Please read it because you will be shattered by the end. It was a perfect book. Some people are saying that they liked it better than The Nightingale, which blows my mind. I don't think I'd go that far, but it definitely stays up here on the top. Looking at this tier list I made, I support all of my decisions. These are all 5-star, no notes books. I loved them. Loved them. Loved them. Silent Patient, again, like, we could put it up here. Screw it. We're putting it up there. I said it was a perfect thriller. So if that's the case, it should be up here. Let's see here. Yeah, this looks good. I back it up. Still beating worst book I've ever read. I'm sorry, but I'm not. Anyways, if you like this video, let me know. If you've read any of these books and you liked them, or you think I tiered them wrong, let me know. I want to hear it. And then tell me about Saving Noah. I know I'm going back to that, but for real. And then, of course, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're here every single Thursday for all kinds of book-related content. So stick around. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.